Aren't you sad there's only three lessons left? And this is lesson 28 if you've done it in chronological order. But of course, some of you might have skipped around or, used this course as a buffet. But yeah, this one is about always being over prepared and especially in interviews. Many people are not prepared. Like in the last lesson, when you present your plan to your manager, are you prepared? Do you know what objections they can come up with? Or in an interview, are you really prepared for the questions that are coming up? Most people are not. And I learned this the hard way. 5 years ago, when I started to apply for jobs, I was so naive. I thought, oh, if I just apply for it, I get a couple of questions, I will get a job. But the types of questions that were being asked, I were not at all prepared for. No way. So I got rejection after rejection until I started to notice like many of the questions were the same. And if I prepared for them properly, nowadays you can even go to Glassdoor and you can see questions that recruiters and companies ask in interviews, so you can prepare for that. You need to prepare and actually over prepare, otherwise it's likely that other people are going to take your place and you're not going to get it. So for pay rises and interviews at your current company and other companies, you need to write down potential objections. Like, what are some of the reasons that your manager is going to say, no, I'm not going to give you this pay rise because this project is going to be done already by someone else? Or how do you think you're going to do that? If you can anticipate in advance what are some of these objections and you answer them in advance, how much more confident do you feel actually going into that interview or that performance review? So deal with the objections in advance. Also, number 3, have a plan B if you don't get a pay rise. And that's why we went through, like, make yourself feel more powerful by having multiple options. If you know that your manager is a dick, excuse my French, and they're never going to give you a pay rise, what are you going to do about it? Have that plan ready, okay? And of course, you need to practice with a friend. Like, tell your friend, I'm going to apply for this new role, or I'm going to do this performance review. Can you play like a nasty boss who's just going to say no? And just practice and role play. You'll be surprised how much feedback that will give you and how much better you will feel prepared for the performance review. Other things you must do when you apply for new jobs at other companies is very obviously, you need to research the company and the website. You need to research the industry as well and to anticipate the direction that it's going to. And many companies ask for this, like, okay, what do you know about our company? If you can say, oh, I know you're this and this and this, I know that this is your vision and this is where you're headed, and I can help you with X, Y, Z. How many people do that? Like almost no one. It will put you in such a good position. You can also do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, both for yourself and for your company. Again, you can practice interviews with your friend. And also, of course, dress for success. Suit, tie, or whatever you feel confident in. But yeah, make sure that you feel and bring that confidence. That's a way of preparation. Here are some of the common interview questions that I've seen companies ask. What do you want from this job? What do you know about this company, which you got from your research? What are your strengths and weaknesses? And the key here is to show how your weakness can actually also be a strength. So make sure that you look at your weaknesses and think like, oh, how is it a strength? Don't say all your weaknesses like, oh, I'm always late, I don't care about deadlines. You know, give them a weakness that can also be a strength. Like, okay, I always want to do my job really, really well, and as a result, I take a little bit longer. Now, companies would like that, right? You may take a bit longer, but at least you do your job well. So think about like how can you reframe your weaknesses as strengths. A big question that recruiters and companies always ask: why do you want to leave? Don't say, oh, my manager's a fucking asshole, he's a bastard. Like, they're gonna say, he's probably gonna say that about us when we hire him. Say something like, you want to progress in your career and there was no room for that in your previous role. Or you want to take on more responsibility, which again is about progression. You want to develop new skills. Some of those answers are some really great answers for you. They will also ask, like, what are some of your achievements and successes? And make sure that when you give them, like, I helped my company to increase the profit margin by 2%. They ask you, oh, wow, that's amazing. How did you do it? If you don't know how, or you have to think about it, that's not a good sign. So make sure you are prepared for that. Another one is, why do you want to work for this firm? And companies really want to hear that. When you do your research and you learn something about their vision that you really, really love, write it down and say, hey, I read the vision of your company that you're really committed to diversity and ethical behavior, and that's what I like. That's why I applied for this job. And, do a bit of research on that answer. Another thing that you must do is to prepare a question for them. If you don't have any questions, that's not a good sign. Ask them a question like, hey, how does a successful completion of this role look like? Or hey, who was in this position previously and why did they leave? Like, research a couple of questions that you can ask and bring to the table, because it's a sign of being a self-starter. If you claim like, oh, I'm a self-starter, and they ask you a question, it's not really congruent. Make sure that you have questions for them as well. And here's some common things that you can do. Google like common interview questions, or go to Glassdoor to get industry-specific interview questions. Answer them on paper and practice them with a friend. Make sure that you're always over-prepared. It's really going to help you a lot, rather than just hoping for the best, because that's not good enough anymore. Always be over-prepared.